Money FM 89.3, the best of Saturday mornings. International News Review.
Our International News Review, joining us, Steve Okun, the CEO of APEC Advisors. Steve, good morning. Volodymyr Zelenskyy clashing with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in an unbelievable exchange in the Oval Office just hours ago. Zelenskyy, told to leave the White House, has since come out and talked quite a bit about this really unprecedented kind of shout down on Zelenskyy by Trump and Vance. What's your take, Steve?
Okay, first correction. This was not unbelievable.
Really?
Unprecedented,
okay.
Of course.
Okay.
It's not unbelievable. You have a clown like J.D. Vance is our vice president who really took this, and you could put all the blame on him, which I will put all the blame on him, but I will criticize many other people in that room. You can put all the blame on Vance because this was not going off the rails until he really started in on Zelenskyy, playing to Trump, playing to the MAGA base, playing to the cameras, wanting to set himself up to be president 4 years from now.
Just to recap, explain what he did for those waking up who didn't see it.
Well, I mean, so what happened was let's start with the problem from the beginning. You should never have a meeting between two leaders at this level with so much at stake unless you know exactly what is going to happen. You need this choreographed.
Which is what's typically done in these settings at the White House, at least.
Anywhere. Yeah. Always done. You don't put your leader out there for both sides unless you know exactly what is going to get done and what you're going to accomplish. Now, maybe what you need is a leaders meeting to push something that's at, to use a U.S. football term. Maybe you're at the 2-yard line and you need to get into the end zone, and that's when you get the leaders to come in and close the deal. And so what happened here was, Trump clearly wants to have this minerals deal with Ukraine. Zelenskyy is willing to give up a lot, but he wants a security assurance. Trump won't give it to him. So we are seemingly at a stalemate going into this meeting. I would have thought before you set it up, stupidly on my part, that they had this worked out. And you end up with not only nothing getting accomplished, what you get a walk back. And so they didn't have a deal. They have no agreement. Reporters start asking questions, and J.D. Vance starts to answer those questions, going to Zelenskyy and egging him on. Why, what are you doing? Why are you playing politics with this? Why are you playing to our media? And then Zelenskyy goes back at Vance, and then Trump steps in on Zelenskyy on Vance's side, and it just goes completely nuts.
J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, issue seemed to be that he wanted a thank you. What was so important about getting this public declaration of gratitude? I mean, Zelenskyy has publicly thanked the United States many, many times. 33 times, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. It had nothing to do with that. Vance clearly is playing to the cameras. He's playing to the base. He's playing to Trump to make him look like he's even tougher on Ukraine and Zelenskyy. That's all it is. And Zelenskyy took that bait, and maybe he shouldn't have. But he had to stand up for his country. And when we get off, I put all the blame. I put all the blame on the United States for setting up a meeting that got into the situation. But I also say there's little things like if you're the Ukrainian diplomats, Donald Trump wants to see Zelenskyy in a suit and in a tie going into the Oval Office, and Zelenskyy comes out of the car, and of course he's wearing his sweatshirt, and
he's a commander-in-chief. He's a president in war.
He's in Washington, D.C., going into the Oval Office to see the president, and it is going to anger Trump. You certainly should know that. The first thing that Trump says when he sees Zelenskyy getting out of the car, he says, "Oh, you're all dressed up today." So don't say you. So it's just maybe that wouldn't have made any difference, but you've got to know the situation you're going into.
On that point, it is geopolitics 101, human relationships. Now, the day before, or 2 days before, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer pulls out a handwritten letter from King Charles, and you could visibly see President Trump gush. He's to use an American term, he is a sucker for pomp and pageantry. He loves all that stuff. And according to many reports, Keir Starmer played President Trump like a violin. Still went back to the UK, by the way, and supported Ukraine, supported EU and so on. Could you make a case that Zelenskyy needs to just deal with the fact he's working with President Trump and treat him accordingly?
Well, every country is trying to figure out what it can do to get into Trump's good graces so that they don't get hit with tariffs, so they don't get hit with investment restrictions, so they don't get hit with all of these other economic, tools of economic tools of war that the United States has and can use. So what does the UK have? The UK has the king.
Soft power.
So they have it could be soft power, economic power. You figure out as a country what is it that can show that you are paying respect, whatever it is, to Donald Trump. So the UK has the letter from the king. What are the Vietnamese doing? The Vietnamese are offering to give Elon Musk Starlink in their country, violating their own laws that they have in place to say that you, Elon Musk, can get access to our country, to our satellite system, even though we wouldn't give it to anyone else, because you're hoping that going through Elon Musk puts you in Trump's good graces. The Australians are doing it, showing how much money the Australians are investing in the United States. Every country is looking to it. I think the UK may have the top trump card, to use a phrase, right, of all, which is the king. Trump loves royalty.
Of course.
He loves the monarchy. He loved Queen Elizabeth. When you can do something for Donald Trump that's never been done in the history of the world, a second royal visit, that you play that card and you are golden.
So return to the question, why didn't Zelenskyy at least attempt something along those lines? Without getting into who's the right or wrong, just basic geopolitical human relationships.
Okay. Vietnam's not at war. Ukraine's not at war. Australia's not at war. It is a totally different situation. Zelenskyy is trying to give Trump something by signing this critical minerals agreement, but he also can't bankrupt the country. And Zelenskyy says, I can't bankrupt the country going forward for 10 generations by giving all of our minerals to Donald Trump to get a ceasefire that may not even hold. So Zelensky's in it. You cannot blame Zelenskyy saying, oh, well, look at what Starmer did and look what the Vietnamese are doing. You should do the same. He can't. That's not the position he's in. And the United States should be recognizing that if we don't support, we the United States, don't support Ukraine, what is going to happen to Europe? And that's what, and Zelenskyy made that point in the meeting, saying, U.S., you are going to be worse off if we have to capitulate to Putin and then he just wipes out Europe. It's going to come to your doorstep. And then that's what set Trump off. Trump's, don't tell me how we're going to feel. Well, don't tell me what we need to do.
Look, I think the instructional moment here is anybody who's been an ally of the U.S. heretofore should very closely consider what that actually means in this world going forward, including Singapore. And Singapore has relied on that wonderful both economic and security relationship with the U.S., not to mention all the cultural ties. But what does this say to Singapore now if the U.S. is going to throw Zelenskyy under the bus so quickly to Russia, what do security guarantees mean for any country around the world when it comes to the U.S.?
Well, and that is what the everybody recognizes. Trump is transactional in the moment. Well, it is why the defense minister said Trump is nothing but a landlord seeking rent, and which I think people in the United States would say, yes, that's it. You got it exactly right, Mr. Minister. That is what we're doing. We should be getting the best deal for ourselves. We are a landlord seeking rent. And so that is what you have to do going forward. I will say just on one point, I maybe everybody is all doom and gloom on this, and I am not going to be doom and gloom on U.S. in Ukraine right now because Trump's closing comment in the meeting when the cameras were on was, "This is going to be great television." Okay. What is the best thing that is? What's even greater television than this blow up? Is them coming back together, right? The reunion episode, coming back and saying, okay, we had our fight and now we're going to patch it up. And that's going to be even bigger ratings. And so Zelenskyy tweeted out, what did Zelenskyy tweet out right after he left the Oval Office? He said, thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, at President Trump, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that. So we are now setting up for the two of them to come back together.
The reunion tour.
The reunion, the makeup show, right? We have the feud, and now we're going to get the resolution. So I think this is Act 2, right? We still got Act 3 to go.
But meanwhile, without wishing to bring it back again, overnight Russian drones were launched. Children were injured. This goes on. People will continue to die in the Ukraine. Meanwhile, the EU scrambled European leaders to stand by Ukraine in the early hours of this morning. And listen to this for a quote from EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas. Today, she says, it became clear that the free world needs a new leader. This is the stand now with the EU. Could this isolationism eventually backfire for the US?
The argument you will get from the U.S. is that Trump is not an isolationist. So they'll push back and say, no, he's not an isolationist. He's transactional, and look at all of the things that he's doing. He had this bilateral meeting with Zelenskyy. He met with Starmer. He met with Macron. You know, what did Secretary Rubio, and who is in the room silent, well, you'd want to think that the Secretary of State would have jumped in and tried to diffuse this, but he's a potted plant in that.
He's out of his depth on this one for sure.
And well, he has no depth, right? Trump's taken it away from him as he's taken it away from all of his cabinet secretaries, seemingly. But what is it that you need to do and you need to see is that the Americans will say, hey, Rubio met with the Quad, and the other foreign ministers, one of the first things that he ever did. So it's not that the U.S. is isolationist and it's going to put up, walls behind the Pacific and the Atlantic and say we're done. It is going to be transactional. It is going to be America first. And there's a difference between America first and isolationist. And that is the world that the Europeans and the Singaporeans and everybody else in the Asia Pacific and the entire world are now going to have to realize they are in for at least 4 years, if not longer.
Let's stick with Europe. In Germany, we saw the election this past week, and the far right AfD party garnering votes, not coming to full power, of course, but really rising again. And many would say that this is a result of the sort of the Trumpian world that we live in. But what's your take on this?
I mean, I think this is kind of, if you want to take this analogy, some people will disagree. Half the United States will disagree. Is Trump a symptom, or is he the disease? He's the symptom. The symptom is you have a changing world. You have lower wages. You have people fighting back against immigration everywhere, and Trump won. Issues-wise,
income disparity,
immigration, inflation, income disparity, all of those things that are happening in the United States that give you Trump. Same thing that is happening in Germany gives you the rise of the far right in getting 20% of the vote.
I said this at the start of the year. 2025 will be the peak populism year. The difference is, though, Steve, 20% of the popular vote for the Alternative for Deutschland, the far-right party, the AfD, is one thing. Having the vice president and Elon Musk publicly congratulate them and talk with them privately. Didn't speak, I don't think Vance spoke with the actual president, the winning party. He spoke privately with the far-right party. That feels like a validation, an American validation of the far-right in Germany.
Well, it's certainly a MAGA validation of the far right. And now the question is, and I don't know German politics well enough to know, did it help or did it hurt? They were polling higher before the U.S. started to come in on, and when I say U.S., it's half of the United States, and it's probably less than half of the United States. So we have to be careful saying the U.S. is validating them. Vance and Musk are validating them. It might have hurt. So we don't know if it helped or hurt because their ultimate vote was less than what they were polling at their peak. But there's no question that we're having rising populism and rising nationalism, and it is everywhere, and it is in response to the changing world. It's in response to income disparity. I think you say 2025 is going to peak. It may peak even more. What happens when AI comes in and thousands thousands and thousands of jobs get lost. And everyone's saying, oh, it's great. AI is going to replace more jobs than it displaces. And I'm like, well, let's wait and see.
Just to clarify, they can't actually take power due to the firewall agreement that Germany has, which is an unwritten rule that parties on the far right cannot be a part of the coalition. So you have this strange situation where the second most popular party right now in Germany cannot form part of the coalition government.
Interesting. All right, we got to move on. Let's come back to this part of the world. The new search for Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has been launched. It was back in April, I believe, of 2014 that plane disappeared somewhere over the Indian Ocean, it's believed. Nearly 50,000 square miles of ocean had been searched. They found a few pieces of what they thought might be the plane, but now they are starting it up again. Is there any hope, Steve, really, at this point, that they are going to, a decade later, they're going to be able to find this thing?
Oh, there's $70 million worth of hope at least out there, because the firm that is searching has a no find, no fee contract with the Malaysian government. So if they go out there and they search this new part of the ocean and they find nothing, they get paid nothing. If they find the aircraft, they get $70 million. So they think, and obviously this company is willing to take this gamble or to accept this business proposition because of new technologies, because of what's happened since the last search was canceled. They've got new information from the bottom of the ocean. They've got new, I think it's satellite information. They've got new information that they can put into the computers.
They think there's a chance.
Yeah, of course. They think there's a $70 million
and there's 70 million reasons why.
And this just shows that. And look, it's very doubtful that you will find out the solution, I would guess, to why this plane crashed as it did. If you can find the plane and then bring it up. It's been underwater for so long, who knows what kind of shape it's in. But this just is one that how much people value getting closure for the families. They want to know, yes, the bodies were found. It's not like there's going to be any survivors, of course, but you know, and this is what happens with plane crashes. It's just a mystery to humans everywhere, and you want to put a solution on it. It's why people are still trying to figure out where Amelia Earhart is, and it's why people still try and figure out a plane crash like this, where it could be 14 different things that caused it. You want to know, and it's helpful for the families, and it's just helpful for everybody to know what happened to a plane.
That was going to be my question, putting your Department of Transportation hat back on. Realistically, what can they actually find? I mean, it's been in the water for more than 10 years, been in harsh ocean for more than 10 years, apart from closure, and no one's downplaying that for the families. And even then, without getting too graphic on a Saturday morning, those bodies have been in the water. We're not finding anything, all right? So let's just put that out there. What can they conceivably find that could help with the investigation?
I mean, so if it's terms of what could they conceivably find in terms of preventing another disaster? I mean, that's part of why you spend so much time and money on figuring out why a plane crashed, is to prevent future ones from happening. And every time there's a disaster and you learn from something, you change it may be mechanical, it might be procedures for air traffic control, it might be in terms of pilot training. So you always want to try and figure out what's going to happen. In this case, maybe you can find out how long this aircraft could fly without fuel, because you kind of know where fuel ran out. And if you know where the fuel ended for the aircraft, because you know that you can figure out how much fuel is on the plane, how far can it go, and then the crash site being 100 miles beyond that, now you know the plane can go another 100 miles, and maybe that will change how you set up procedures for an aircraft like this. I don't know that it would, but there are certain things you can find even without getting to the bottom, presumably, of the Indian Ocean, and recovering it, because the recovery of this would be really even more expensive, but maybe that's something you want to do.
Yeah. I just want to get a few questions, because we always get them in when you're on air and we never get round to getting them to you. So Athanasios in Australia says, Australia is alarmed about Trump right now. What's the point of AUKUS or AUKUS?
Why don't you ask all the questions? And then
there's that one, and it's just more about Trump. Trump is sizing up all these visitors and preparing for negotiations in Act 2, says Ian. All right, so AUKUS, what does it mean for Australia, the Trump situation?
Well, I mean, I think that's you now have to have a different mindset when you are dealing with the United States. If you're a business, if you're an investor, you're in a government, we are in a new world, and you now have to recalculate. Is this agreement that I have one that is going to hold? And if I have the agreement and it holds, is it one that I can trust? And so I hate to say you just don't know. You can't know yet. It's been 36 days or something like that of this new administration. But you have to understand this is not the United States that you've been dealing with. Even under the first Trump administration. I mean, I wrote this article before the election, and I said, Trump 2.0, I mean, America first and Trump 1.0, Trump first and Trump 2.0. Think that way as you start to figure out how you are going to engage with the United States.
All right, our final story today, a sad one. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead in their home in New Mexico this week. Hackman, 95 years old. Foul play is not suspected, but it does appear that they had been dead for quite a number of days, perhaps up to 9 days before they were actually found. A sad moment. Any favorite thoughts about Gene Hackman?
Well, of course.
Or your favorite Gene Hackman movie?
The best by far, right? Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Filmed in Milton Keynes in the UK, doubling for New York because they ran out of money halfway through the movie.
I've got to go. Okay, well, I'll throw out. I have three, because I'm limiting this to movies. Actually, I'm going to go four, but three real ones. Movies I saw in the theater. Okay, so I'm not. French Connection is just before my time.
Yeah,
maybe not before Glenn's time, right? But before my time. So the three I will throw out: Hoosiers. Oh my God! Hoosiers, and people say it's a great basketball movie.
Yeah, that's an outlier.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Hoosiers, Mississippi Burning, which I'd be surprised how many people in this audience have seen it. Mississippi Burning and Unforgiven. When I saw Unforgiven, blew me away. We can talk about Young Frankenstein later.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
I will go. I would probably say The French Connection, but just to be different, I will go with the greatest superhero movie of all time, which is the original Superman, because Christopher Reeve is magnificent, but Marlon Brando didn't basically turn up, and so it's Gene Hackman that has to carry both Christopher Reeve and the movie, and he is astonishing as Lex Luthor. He's funny, hilariously funny. He's cunning. He's sharp. He's witty. The perfect comic book villain.
When
do I not get to?
I just have to follow up on the Superman.
It is
one.
Glenn's show.
Yeah, go on. Really?
No, it's not. It's our show. It's our show.
No. So just Alex. So they asked Gene Hackman, "So why are you doing it?" And he said, "I'll give you 2 million reasons."
Exactly.
But he added such. People. This was the first really comic book movie, and Gene Hackman gave it the credibility.
Correct.
And it's kind of like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. So huge fan. All right, Glenn, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Now that we have 90 seconds left. Okay, for grit and for action, it's gotta be French Connection.
Correct.
If you want to see the way New York City actually looked in 1971, watch that movie. Now, for pure drama, I would say Crimson Tide.
Great film.
Amazing films. Okay, that's it. We got to go. Steve, thank you very much. Have a good week. Not like you don't have anything to do this week. Well, it's going to be boring.
What's going to happen this week? Will we have anything to talk about next week?
Probably not.
Good
right.
one. See you next
Steve.
week.
All right.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.